In the boardroom of Sato Logistics, a coffee cup shattered against the marble floor, freezing every soul in the room.
My company. This can't be happening. Who is this child?
I am Kazuya Arisawa. As of today, I own the majority shares of this company.
Silence fell like a blade. The board members exchanged terrified glances.
You are just a boy. This is some kind of hoax. Guards, remove him.
The documents on the table are real. Sato Logistics now answers to me. I suggest you cooperate.
Hiroshi's knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of the table, his empire crumbling. At the doorway, the receptionist stood frozen, a forgotten name clawing at her throat.
Please, sit down. This is only the beginning. We have much to discuss.
How did a 17-year-old stranger bring a company to its knees in seconds? The answer began 10 years ago. The Sato household held its breath that night, unaware that a betrayal was already in motion. Inside, Hiroshi Sato counted stacks of crumpled bills, his fingers cold and certain.
You are going to help me pay a debt. Boy, say nothing and cooperate.
A black car pulled into the alley, and a towering foreign man stepped into the damp air.
This is the collateral. He will suffice. The debt is erased.
From the shadows, Akiko lunged forward, but Hiroshi's arm caught her like a steel bar. Kazuya did not cry. He didn't even blink. His small face remained a mask of unnerving calm. His father pushed him toward the open door, his grip more transaction than touch. The door slammed. The boy was gone. The alley swallowed the sound of the engine. That night, the boy who would become Kazuya Arisawa learned that family could be currency. Hiroshi Sato stood before the neighbors with a mourner's face, announcing that young Kazuya had died of a sudden illness. A small memorial was held. Akiko stood at the edge of the room, her eyes hollow, her voice stolen. Meanwhile, the black car pulled up before a grand European mansion, its gates opening to swallow the boy whole. Inside, Victor Arisawa sat behind an enormous desk, his sharp gaze fixed on the child, who showed no fear. The boy stood rigidly, his small hands at his sides, returning the stare with a silence that spoke volumes. Kazuya's face remained a mask. No tears, no trembling, just a stillness that intrigued the old magnate.
You do not flinch. Interesting. What is your name, boy?
Kazuya. Victor Arisawa, childless and perceptive, saw a reflection of his own ambition in that unnerving calm. With a curt nod, he decided this boy would stay. The deal was sealed in silence. The mansion became a crucible. Kazuya was no longer a child, but a project, one Victor Arisawa shaped with relentless precision. By candlelight, the boy devoured books on law, finance, and language, his small fingers tracing words until dawn.
Knowledge without will is useless. Show me your hunger, boy.
Kazuya responded not with words, but with unwavering focus. He absorbed everything like parched soil. At 10, he sat beside Arisawa during board meetings, correcting figures in ledgers with a cold precision that stunned old executives.
I was betrayed by my own blood. They left me for dead. That is why you, the discarded, will inherit all I have built.
Loyalty is the only debt I will ever owe. By 13, his mind was a weapon, and his body became one too. Hours of kendo sculpted a predator's calm. He managed a subsidiary of the Arisawa Group, making cutthroat decisions that doubled its value. The board called him the Ice Prince, but beneath the frost, a quiet loyalty to Victor burned, the only warmth he allowed himself. 3 years later, Victor Arisawa's body finally surrendered to the illness that had stalked him for a decade.
Kazuya, the empire is yours. I knew your past, the sale, the lies. Settle it, but do not let it consume you.
The funeral was a gray, solitary affair. Kazuya stood alone, rain soaking his black suit, his face unreadable. Days later, he stared down from his high-rise office, the city sprawling beneath him, and made his choice. In the empty hospital room, the machines were silent. Only the will in his hands spoke, Using Arasawa's funds, he began buying shares of Sato Logistics through shell companies, silently and relentlessly. Each acquisition was a stone laid on a grave, the grave of the boy his family had buried with a lie. Within months, he controlled a majority stake. The trap was set, and the chains were nearly forged. He visited Victor's grave one last time, a single white flower in his hand, a silent promise fulfilled.
The debt comes due.
The morning of the takeover, Kazuya Arisawa stepped out of a black car, the same model that had stolen him years ago.
Those eyes. For a moment, I saw him. No, it's impossible.
He passed the lobby without a glance, a specter in a tailored suit, leaving a cold wake. The elevator climbed to the top floor, carrying 10 years of silence in its brushed steel heart. When the heavy boardroom door swung open, the air itself turned brittle. Conversations died.
Good morning. I'm Kazuya Arisawa, the new majority shareholder. Please, take your seats.
What is the meaning of this? On whose authority do you barge into my company?
Authority comes with ownership. The documents speak for themselves.
He spread the acquisition papers across the glossy table, the official seal glaring under the lights. Hiroshi Sato's coffee cup began to tremble in his hand, a tiny earthquake of fury and disbelief. And then, in the space of a heartbeat, the cup slipped from Hiroshi's grip. It shattered on the marble, coffee splashing like dark accusations across the floor.
Perhaps we should adjourn for the day. The meeting can resume when tempers have cooled.
The board members, frozen like wax figures, began to stir, exchanging uneasy glances.
This is impossible. I'll dismantle him piece by piece. No one takes what is mine.
One by one, the executives shuffled out, their loyalty evaporating faster than the spilled coffee. Hiroshi stood alone in the emptying room, his fists trembling at his sides, a king with no kingdom. Kazuya turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing in the hollow silence left behind. As he passed through the lobby, his hand brushed the portfolio. Inside, an old photograph of Victor waited.
That name, it's him. After 10 years, my son has returned.
The next morning, Kazuya summoned the senior staff and handed each a termination letter without a word. Contracts were rerouted overnight, accounts frozen. Sato Logistics began to bleed from 1,000 paper cuts.
I called every board member. Half already sold their shares. The rest are avoiding my calls. You think you can steal my company with a few signatures? I'll crush you, boy.
Your performance review is next week. I suggest you focus on that, Mr. Sato.
Hiroshi's rage faltered. That calm wasn't arrogance. It was the patience of a predator who had already won. He slammed his fist on the desk, papers flying, but his fury hit a wall of ice. Kazuya didn't flinch. He simply watched, his face unreadable, as Hiroshi stormed out, leaving only silence behind. Alone once more, Hiroshi stared at the performance review notice, the weight of his downfall sinking in.
This is only the first act. He will remember the boy he sold before the curtain falls.
Desperate for leverage, Hiroshi hired a private investigator to dig up the past of Kazuya Arisawa. The report, when it arrived, was a thin folder stamped with 2 words, "No record."
Orphan, adopted, educated abroad. The man is a ghost. This tells me nothing. There must be something. Keep digging. Find me dirt, or you are fired.
In the lobby, Akiko Sato's ears caught fragments of Hiroshi's furious phone calls.
He's investigating. If he finds any link, I have to erase it before it's too late.
Late that night, she opened the employee database and began deleting birth records, one keystroke at a time.
But those eyes, I know those eyes. Why does that boy seem so familiar?
Yet the harder he tried to grasp the memory, the quicker it slipped away, a ghost from a buried past. The files vanished. The trail went cold, and in the darkness, a mother guarded her son's secret. During the next board session, Kazuya's voice sliced through the stale air, calculated and cold.
A debt, unpaid, is a soul bound, Mr. Sato. You understand that philosophy, don't you?
That phrase, I used to say that. How does this stranger know my words?
Hiroshi's face went white, his pupils shrinking as old memories rattled their chains. At the doorway, Akiko's hand flew to her mouth, her pulse a frantic drum in her ears.
Nonsense. Just nerves. It's a common saying, nothing more.
That night, alone in the darkened office, she tore a page from her notepad and wrote 4 words. Moments later, a folded note appeared under the door of Kazuya's temporary office. Be careful. They are watching. The ink was still wet.
Someone is helping me, but who? This changes nothing and everything.
Akiko Sato began misrouting calls and hiding reports, her quiet sabotage unraveling Hiroshi's last allies.
I look like a ghost. This company is eating me alive.
Then, during a strategy call, a sharp pain seized his chest. From the doorway, Kazuya observed without a flicker of concern. Behind the closed door of a supply closet, Akiko listened to the rumors spreading like poison. Kazuya began to notice the receptionist, how she always looked away when he passed, how her eyes held a deep sadness.
He's watching me now. Does he suspect? I have to be more careful.
That woman, she's been here for years. Why do I feel an inexplicable pull toward her?
That evening, she overheard Hiroshi's furious rant about stolen contracts. She slipped into the server room and redirected the shipments. By the end of the week, Hiroshi collapsed, pills scattered on the floor. The company was in ruins, and his body followed. But the mysterious helper had left a trail only Kazuya could see. His gaze began to linger on the reception desk. As midnight settled over the building, Kazuya entered the elevator, his reflection cold and unreadable. But before the doors could close, a hand slipped through. Akiko stepped in, her face drawn. Without a word, she pressed the stop button. The car lurched to a halt, sealing them together.
Kazuya, you came back. I knew you would.
She pulled out a worn photograph, a 7-year-old boy with hollow eyes, frozen in time.
I recognized you the moment you walked in. I've waited 10 years to leave him.
From her bag, she drew a folded legal document, its seal bearing a date from years past.
These divorce papers have been signed for years. I just needed you to return.
She held the photo to her heart, her tears finally spilling after a decade of silence.
This woman, the anonymous helper, is my mother.
In the halted elevator, Akiko's words tumbled out, a decade of silence breaking in desperate bursts.
I never agreed to that sale. Hiroshi forged my signature. He told everyone you died.
She had searched for him every night, saving pennies, her body bearing the wages of Hiroshi's rage.
I stayed as his receptionist, hoping one day you'd return. I knew you would.
She held up the divorce papers with trembling hands, the seal dated years ago.
Help me finalize this. Help me ruin him the way he ruined us.
Kazuya stood frozen. Then, after a long, cold silence, he gave a single, sharp nod.
Very well. You'll continue as receptionist and feed me evidence. I'll provide funds.
Akiko's shoulders sagged with relief and grief as the elevator hummed back to life. The pact was sealed without warmth, only the cold steel of shared purpose. In a dim office, Akiko passed a flash drive into Kazuya's waiting palm.
Inside is evidence of his bribe. Use it to burn him to ashes.
Later, headphones on, Kazuya played the recording. Hiroshi's voice, a parking garage deal. The audio was damning, 50 million for the foreign contract. No paper trail.
My account's frozen, every single one. That boy is strangling me. I need that loan. Any amount, triple the interest. I'll pay it all.
At her terminal, Akiko intercepted the loan request and doctored the terms into a dead end. The strain became physical. Hiroshi clutched his chest, pills scattering across the office floor.
Not yet. The board will deliver the final reckoning.
Without a word, he turned away, leaving Hiroshi gasping in the ruins of his own empire. The night before the vote, Hiroshi slumped in the empty boardroom, a bottle and a photograph his only company.
Father, I sacrificed my family for this company. My dead son. And now a stranger takes everything.
He slammed the bottle down, his reflection a ghost in the dark window, moaning for a past he destroyed. In the corridor, Akiko pressed her ear to the door, her hand clamped over her mouth.
If he only knew the son he mourns is the one he fears.
On the rooftop, Kazuya faced the rising sun, the city at his feet, Victor's final words echoing within.
Settle your past, then build your future. Today, the past ends.
Below, Hiroshi's drunken cries faded into the hum of the dying building. Akiko dried her tears and returned to her desk, leaving her husband to drown in his own poison. At dawn, the boardroom would meet, and a decade of silence would finally shatter. The board members took their seats, the air dense with dread as Kazuya stood at the head of the table. Kazuya laid out the documents, evidence of bribery, embezzlement, and gross mismanagement by the CEO. He pressed play. The parking garage recording filled the room. 50 million. No paper trail. Gasps rippled across the table. Directors turned pale, staring at the frozen form of Hiroshi Sato.
You fabricated that. This is a conspiracy. I demand proof.
This company was born from a debt paid with a child's life. A 7-year-old boy, sold as collateral.
Stone silence enveloped the room. Every face turned to the man who had sold his own son. Hiroshi's mouth opened, but no sound came. The blood drained from his cheeks like a fading ghost. Kazuya's eyes held no triumph, only the cold, enduring weight of a decade of waiting. The vote would come next, but in the eyes of the board, the verdict had already been delivered. One by one, hands rose. The vote was unanimous. Hiroshi Sato was no longer CEO.
You can't do this. I built this company. I demand to know who you are.
A debt unpaid is a soul bound. You sold me 10 years ago. Now I own you.
The words struck deeper than any blade. Hiroshi's lips moved, but no sound came. The memory hit him like a physical blow. The alley, the blacked car, the silent child. His lips formed a name he'd buried a decade ago. But the sound died in his throat as security arrived. Kazuya's expression remained ice. He gestured to the guards without a word. Rough hands seized him. The boardroom emptied, leaving only the echo of a shattered legacy. The heavy door swung shut. Outside, the world continued, indifferent to the fall of a king. Kazuya Arisawa walked out into the light. The title now his. The Sato era was over. Alone in the boardroom, Hiroshi sat slumped in his chair, the silence pressing down like a verdict. The door opened softly. Akiko stepped in. Her step steady, a folder clutched to her chest.
I filed these 10 years ago. I waited for our son to return to give me the courage to serve them.
She placed the divorce papers on the table, the old seal facing him like a judgment. Hiroshi looked up, his eyes hollow. A man already buried by his own choices. Without hesitation, Akiko signed her name, the signature she had practiced for a decade.
You lost everything the moment you sold him. Goodbye, Hiroshi.
She turned and walked away. Her footsteps echoed, each one a hammer blow to the empty room. Hiroshi's hand trembled over the papers, but he could not touch them. He was utterly alone. Outside, Akiko didn't look back. The chains that bound her had finally shattered. Kazuya stood waiting on the steps of Sato Logistics, his silhouette sharp against the morning sun. Her footsteps slowed as she saw him, the man who was once her little boy, now a stranger. For a long moment, neither spoke. The world around them faded into silence.
Thank you, Kazuya, for coming back, for everything.
Without a word, he extended an envelope. Inside, a key to a small apartment under her maiden name.
It's yours. No strings attached. A place to start over.
Akiko's legs gave way. She clutched the key like a lifeline, tears cutting tracks through her makeup. And then, after a decade of ice, he took her hand, slowly, deliberately. It was not forgiveness, but it was a start. Without another word, they began to walk away from the building that had imprisoned them both, side by side. Two survivors stepped into an uncertain future, No longer strangers, not quite family, but together. Days later, Kazuya signed the final documents, officially folding Sato Logistics into the Arasawa Group. On his desk, a photograph of Victor Arasawa watched over the new empire, a silent anchor, a soft knock. Akiko entered, holding 2 cups of coffee, her uniform replaced by a simple blouse.
He thought you might need this. Old habits die hard.
The silence between them was heavy with everything unsaid, a decade of pain and tentative hope. He accepted the cup. Their fingers brushed briefly, a contact neither pulled away from. She reached out and touched his shoulder. He did not flinch. For the first time in a decade, the ice in his eyes showed a hairline crack. Outside the window, the morning sun broke through the clouds, flooding the office with light. It was not a happy ending, but it was a beginning. One evening, Kazuya stood alone before Victor Arasawa's grave, the silence heavier than the gray sky. A movement caught his eye, a small, unmarked stone, a few paces away, bearing a fresh flower. He knelt. The stone read, Kazuya Sato. His birth name, his ghost name. A shadow fell over him. Akiko stood behind, an umbrella shielding them both from the soft rain.
I never stopped believing you were alive.
Her voice was worn, but steady. The truth of a decade finally spoken.
She kept my name alive when everyone else buried it.
They stood together, 2 mourners at 2 graves, the boundaries of past and present blurring. For the first time, Kazuya's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with the weight of a long, unheld grief. The rain softened, as if the sky itself was granting a moment of peace. Months later, the Arasawa Group launch event faded. Kazuya and Akiko walked through a quiet park. They left the gleaming headquarters behind, stepping into the fading sunlight. The silence between them had transformed, still heavy, but no longer hostile. For a long moment, they watched the sun dip below the horizon, the sky painted in shades of closure. The boy sold to pay a debt, returned not as a son, but as a stranger who freed his mother. Some wounds never fully heal. They just become part of who you are. Akiko glanced at him, and for the first time, the ghost of a smile touched her lips. He didn't return it, but his shoulders relaxed, the weight of a decade easing. They stood and walked again, their shadows stretching long behind them, separate but aligned. 2 survivors of the same wreckage, no longer strangers, stepping into the unknown together.